everybody. Welcome back to the Irish Guys podcast. How we all doing? Yeah, we had Big Dev. Big Dev was back around last night. We did a little football podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you tuned in, if you haven't, we did a little talking points episode. There was some tasty topics. We got into it a good bit. It was good to have the big man back around. Somebody to bounce off a wee bit again. As I said on that one, Vesty will be back shortly, probably the end of the month or so, and then we'll be back to our regular stuff. But I did one of these wee podcasts last week, one of the shorter podcasts, as we haven't really done anything in our nerd culture section in a while, just as we've said, because it's better when the boys are here and that. But I did one last week, just personal TV shows that are that I'm going to enjoy that I'm looking forward to that are going to come out this year, and I sort of split it up. So this week I'm gonna do a few movies that I'm looking forward to that are coming out this year. I think the TV one was pretty good. As I said, it's probably just like a wee teaser or whatever, for anybody that tunes into usually just our nerd culture stuff. There was a good few ones in it now that I'm definitely looking forward to, and I thought I would just split it up and do movies this week, because then by next week hopefully we'll be back to our regular stuff with the nerd culture stuff, with the movies, TV, game, and all that crack. So yeah, for this week I was going to do movies that are going to come out in 2021 that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully they actually come out. Obviously things are looking a wee bit more promising here at the minute. Ever we're sort of coming out with plans to exit, the restrictions and stuff like that. So everyone's looking a bit more promising. Hopefully the summer's good, and hopefully we get all these shows. So yeah, movies that are coming out this year, all being well. The first one, which is actually what gave me the idea for this, is Tom was texting me the other night and he mentioned it. Mortal Kombat's got a remake coming out. Sort of crosses over a little bit with gaming as well. Tom was more in the mind of, I really hope that this actual Mortal Kombat movie is good, whereas I was like, I hope it's horrendously bad, but in a good way. We did a podcast a while back now, to be fair, with Guilty Movie Pleasures, and I kind of sort of said that I like really bad martial arts movies, and I kind of threw Mortal Kombat in with that. Horrendous film in the 90s, but so bad it's good. Fair enough, they're going to try and reboost the franchise. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll definitely tune in and watch it. I'm gonna constantly compare it to the really bad 90s version, which is, in my opinion, so bad it's good. But it's a big enough franchise as far as gaming and stuff goes. It's got all the characters there, hopefully, and hopefully it comes out okay. I am more in the camp that I hope that it's cringy as shit. Sometimes gaming or movies of that nature trying to cross over into actually trying to be a serious movie never work. But I'm sure it'll have. I've seen the trailer, and at least the CGI looks much better than it did in the 90s. But yeah, semi looking forward to it, to be fair. Another one, which this guy's going to feature a couple of times in this list. Tom Cruise. I'm not like a massive Tom Cruise fan, but just over time I think I've grown to like some of his movie franchises that he's done. I like some of his work. I'm not like a diehard fan of his as an actor or whatever, but I kind of respect that he does a lot of his own stunts and stuff like that, and he's still he's a top list. He's a top list actor in Hollywood and stuff too. I think we've talked a little bit about this one on the podcast a few times, but Top Gun's getting a remake, which is Top Gun the original is like the most adrenaline filled testosterone movie imaginable, and it's again one of them sort of cheesy movies where I think it's over the top and kind of horrific, but I kind of enjoy it in a weird way. The original Top Gun wasn't too bad at all. I really, really liked it, but yeah, they've obviously remade Top Gun. It's called Maverick this time, so obviously Tom Cruise's taking up the role again as Maverick in this one. I think it's still going to be based in the sort of flight school thing, but maybe now Tom Cruise is the instructor or something along those lines. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Apparently Val Kilmer's going to reprise his role as Iceman, which is good banter too. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what way they go with it here. You know, it kind of was middle of the Cold War and all that, so they were using the Russians the last time, I think, wasn't it? Or was it the North Koreans? One of them anyway. And they got in the fight with the MiGs and stuff. I'm looking forward to it, just to see what way they try and. I hope they don't sort of rip. I hope they sort of really pile on with the cheesiness of it. The cheesiness is what kind of made the original Top Gun half decent. And I've kind of admitted that I like Footloose on this podcast before, and Kenny Loggins does Footloose, and if they do not put in Highway to the Danger Zone in this one, I'll be very upset. I will be so very, very upset. I don't think there's any other film in the history of film that plays the soundtrack to the movie as many times as the original Top Gun. Like, any time an aircraft's taken off, Highway to the Danger Zone comes on, and it's fucking fantastic. So if they're gonna cut that out of the movie, and I really hope that they don't. Hopefully, it's just, even if there's like a wee cameo of that song, I'll be happy with it. But you need a little bit of Kenny Loggins in your life, and hopefully that this new remake of Top Gun just piles it on. I really want every time that the jets take off again, Highway to the Danger Zone comes back on. I need that. Next one's an interesting one. It's coming to America, so it's the second part. A few of these are remakes, obviously. It's part number two of Coming to America. The original one, Eddie Murphy in his prime. Big fan of Eddie Murphy, to be fair. Big fan of Eddie Murphy. Great stand-up comedian. Killed it as a youngster. I think I mentioned Beverly Hills Cop as one of my favourite 80s action movies on one of the podcasts. Big fan of Eddie Murphy's. His career kind of teetered off a little bit into the late 90s and early 2000s, and he started some bad films, to be fair, for Eddie Murphy there. Took a while away. Sort of took a step back in his career, took some time off, and then he sort of came back a little bit. You're still seeing a little bit of old Eddie there. I think he hosted Saturday Night Live last year as well. There's talk of him getting back up and maybe doing another stand-up comedy tour, which I'm looking forward to see if he can sort of, it's probably been 30 odd years now since he did any sort of stand-up, maybe even longer. There's talk of that coming back. I did watch Dolomite. Thought he was very good in it. And maybe just like a wee sort of second wind in his career now. Hopefully he can sort of, as far as comedy goes, maybe stand-up, he can sort of find that old sort of edginess to him, maybe. I know it's kind of hard when you've been out of it for so long, but possibly. And Coming to America was a big one for him as well. One of his earlier movies, Trading Places as well. That was a good one. The Beverly Hills Cop originally. And Coming to America was a good one too. I enjoyed it. I like a lot of Eddie Murphy stuff. I'm quite a big fan actually of Eddie Murphy. And hopefully this one, as I said, I talked a little bit prior, I think on the last episode, I think the one that I did last week when I was talking about Will Smith and the Fresh Prince reboot, that when I watched Bad Boys for Life, the third part of the Bad Boys franchise, they sort of steered into that little bit of they're older now and stuff, and it kind of worked okay for them. I mean, not as good as the originals, but they never really are. But hopefully Coming to America can maybe be can sort of just like regain that. I liked the movie originally, like it was a good film. Had a nice little premise and all that there sort of crack, and then I would just like to see what they can do with it. I did like Eddie Murphy and Dolomite, as I said, and I just would like to see if they could maybe, he's going to be a king now and stuff and everything like that too. Obviously in the original one he was looking for love in America and he was sort of all that crack, but It'll be interesting to see the angle that they take with it. I now forgot the actor co-star in the film. Looks like he's reprising his role as well. Oh, Arsenio? Is it Arsenio? Anyway, but yeah, I'm looking forward to coming to America. The next one, we sort of a few of us with as far as basketball goes, we sort of, well, maybe it'll still happen. We were sort of talking about the fact that it'll be a load of sort of late 20s lads will all end up in the cinema to watch a cartoon, but we're all hopefully maybe it happens. Maybe we can actually get back into the cinema for this. But Space Jam 2, you know, the original Space Jam, I'd say for a lot of at least my friends and stuff like that, there was early entry into basketball. You were watching cartoons at that point of your life. Michael Jordan was a superstar. The mix worked well. There was nothing to complain about, and it'll probably lead till, as I said, a lot of lads in their sort of late 20s and early 30s bounce into the cinema to watch a matinee or whatever. Um, Obviously they're going for a bit of a different spin on this one, with LeBron and that. LeBron's the lead star in this one. I think his children are going to be in it. I think it's going to be an interesting to see what way they go for it. They're sort of hinting that it's going to be a different angle. It's not going to be the sort of invasion and takeover thing that the Monstars were doing originally, but they are going to feature or something along those lines. So they're keeping this under wraps, but it was a beloved franchise for lads of my age, girls of my age, whatever. If you're into basketball, it dragged you in there originally. Because it brought together two different worlds. It brought together the biggest superstar in basketball and, the Looney Tunes, which was all good. And it'll just be interesting to see what they do with this in 2021. The jerseys look fucking fantastic, as far as that goes. Would be semi-tempted to get one of them, that sort of like metallic tie-dye thing that they've got going on. Absolutely top rate. So that they look pretty good. LeBron's charismatic. Probably, he's a charismatic guy. He's the biggest superstar in basketball, and everything looks like it's going ahead. I'm really looking forward to this one. To be fair, I love the original Space Jam. I think in somewhere in my house there's still a Michael Jordan figurine, in the Toon Squad gear, from I don't know 98 or something probably. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to Space Jam 2. I'll be tuning in to watch it, 100%. Hopefully we can actually get to the cinema to watch it, because I need that too. But it's not going to be the most in-depth, wonderful spectacle of film, but I am all for watching Space Jam 2. Where else am I at now? Dune. So I actually done a book review podcast on Dune. I had started and got about halfway through it when I did the podcast on Dune. I was trying to get the book finished before the movie came out or whatever. It was scheduled, I think, to come out like last November or December, and they ended up putting it back. So I'm looking forward to this one. I've read a good bit of the book now. I'll pick it back up shortly, I think, and finish it. Get at least the first, because I think the Dune movie is only going to cover the first book. I know that there's the Children of Dune as well, so I've got the trilogy anyway, but I'm going to get the first book finished at least before this movie comes out. I like the principle. The reason I picked it up was I'd heard about it being sort of one of the big sci-fi hitters. I actually talked about the Foundation saga last week, by Isaac Asimov. It was a toss-up between these two, actually, as I said last week on the podcast, of which one I was going to go with first, and then I ended up just choosing Dune. And yeah, I'll probably now not get the Asimov Foundation thing read before the TV show comes out, but I will get Dune finished. It's a neat wee story. Paul Atreides, it's sci-fi, different worlds and stuff. There's a certain spice as well that comes from a planet Arrakis, and it's what the galaxy runs on as well, and there's sort of a rebellion and revolution and stuff that's in it. I had heard that I'm a massive Star Wars fan, so I had kind of heard that Star Wars has drawn a lot of influences from Dune, stuff like that, as well as the Foundation saga as well. So I wanted to pick it up. I forget the main actor's name now. Is it Chalamet? Timothy Chalamet, I think his name is. I watched him in that Netflix film, The King, I think it was called. I thought he was, fairly good in it. Apparently, he's sort of one of these younger actors that's coming through that's quite highly regarded. I'm not an expert in acting or anything, but I thought he was quite good in it. He's gonna pick up the role of Paul Atreides in Dune, the main character in it. So I'm interested to see what they can do with it. I've watched the trailer. The trailer looks very good. It is, massive science fiction. There's giant worms on the planet. The special effects on at least on the trailer anyway look absolutely fantastic. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. To see what they can do with it, and I want to get the book finished as well. It's a book by Frank Herbert. As I said, it's one of the sort of pillars of science fiction. So I'll be very interested to see what they can do with it. Everything so far looks good. I think that it's probably a positive. That they just knocked it back a bit. We've seen things that have been rushed out recently that once they've been put out have got criticism. Thinking of Cyberpunk game as well. Like everybody couldn't wait for it to come out, and then I think that they sort of pushed it out too quickly, and everything happened with Cyberpunk. Nobody really. Then it was, why the hell did you just put it out if it wasn't finished? So you can't win. But I think that it's good that they just pushed Dune back a year, got everything finalised and production and stuff. So looking forward to that 100%. The next few are a few follow-ups. Actually, to be fair, all these ones that I've done are follow-ups. Most of them anyway. Mortal Kombat, Coming to America, Top Gun, Space Jam. The next one is the Jackass stuff. I seen sort of like, sort of being, born in the 90s, and then Jackass sort of taken off around, 2000, the TV show, and sort of the music and that sort of culture, skating culture and like grunge culture and all that sort of carry on. I bought into it a little, I like all them guys. Watched all the stuff early on. Some of it's hairy enough to watch, 100%. But I don't mind a lot of the guys that are on it. A lot of them have their troubles and stuff, but you can sit down, you can have a laugh, you can watch it. Some of it's a bit gruesome, but it's funny. I still find it funny. I like it. I like the guys that are on it. I like a lot of the dudes. A lot of them have had troubles and stuff. Obviously, like Dunn dying and stuff, which was rough on a few of them, especially Bam. Now Bam looks like he's gonna not be involved with the movie or whatever, which is rough enough too. Because I like him. He seems like, I like the characters. They're good. I like the dudes that are on it. I like Johnny as well. Steve-O had a hard time. Now he's got a bit of a stand-up career going and stuff too. I like Steve-O in that too as well. So I want to see them guys do well for themselves. They're going to go for it one more time. I like Jackass. I like the guys that are on it. They're a brave bunch. They're a brave bunch as well too. Like, going through this sort of carry on later in their lives and all now too. They're going to take an absolute beating. And I think a lot of them have sort of talked about the fact that they've put their body through hell for the show, which you have to commend at least a little bit. I know a lot of it was probably just being dumb and young and doing dumb skateboarding tricks, but I like a lot of the guys that are on it, and I'll definitely tune in to watch it too. Like, so hopefully it all goes okay for them. It's a bit sad that Bam isn't involved anymore or whatever, as he's got his own troubles going on and that. But I like the guys that are on it, as I said before, and I will get around to watching it at some point. Next one is an interesting one. There's a new Bond movie coming out. I think it's called No Time to Die. I'm not a big Bond guy at all. I've sort of mentioned this a few times in the podcast. I'm not massive into Bond, but I do like. I have liked them. I still think Sean Connery's the best Bond. For the longest time, I kind of liked Pierce Brosnan as well. I don't know, 90s maybe or something. But I don't think that he... And initially, because I watched the first one in this installment with Daniel Craig was Casino Royale. And I remember going to the cinema to watch it, and I didn't find it good at all. Although I've said this a couple of times, and I think that I'm right in saying that apparently Casino Royale is the Bond fans' Bond movie. It's like the original one or the first one or something along those lines. I'm not a good enough sort of fan of the series to know all the ins and outs of it. But I didn't like Daniel Craig. I didn't like Casino Royale, and then I didn't give him sort of the scope to dive back in or whatever. As I said, like that kind of threw me a bit. I was like, I didn't really like that Bond film. There was nothing that gave off the Bond vibe for me in that film anyway. But following that, I rewatched Casino Royale, started following up and watching his more recent versions. I can't remember the names. I'm not good enough as a fan. But watched a couple more recent ones, and I really, really enjoyed them. To be fair, really, really thought that, like, he's probably my. As I said, I didn't like Daniel Craig in the beginning, and now I think he's probably my second favorite Bond, actor, behind Sean Connery. He's kind of played that sort of James Bond that's a little bit unhinged. In one of them he's actually broken as a man. He's too many injuries. He shouldn't even be in the field. I thought that there were some great villains recently as well. The guy that sort of had the disfigured face, he took his teeth out and stuff as well. He's been mentioned on the podcast. I think actually Clive mentioned him. I thought that Bond movie was really great when he was coming after M. Her death in it as well. Judi Dench, wasn't it? And I've really, really liked him recently. And I think this is going to be his last before he's replaced and move on to somebody else now. And as I said, he and this era of Bond has kind of really flipped for me. As I said, I do think he's now my second favourite Bond actor ever, and I've really liked the way they've taken the franchise in more recent movies. They've kind of minimalised it a little bit. They've kind of had some of them inside jokes where, are you expecting an exploding pen or something along those lines? Is that what you're thinking that you're getting? He has the tracking beacon in one of them as well, or that's all he's given, a tracking beacon and a gun. They're kind of taking the piss out of themselves a wee bit, which is funny. So, as I said, I've really, really enjoyed this sort of turnaround in the Bond franchise, and it's turned me around completely that I'm actually now looking forward to this movie. So yeah, I'm interested to see how he wraps it up. He's nearly on the way out, essentially, as Daniel Craig, as the James Bond character he's portraying. But yeah, I'm interested to see what way they round this era of it out anyway. The next one's an interesting one, most definitely. It looks like The Matrix is bringing out another part. And I don't know what to think of it. The Matrix originally as a concept was fantastic. The first Matrix movie, even Matrix Reloaded, I think it was, the second one anyway, was still pretty good. Got a little bit, I think that they maybe ran out of a few ideas as far as the third, the part 3 went. But Keanu Reeves as an actor has just went from strength to strength throughout his career. He's really, really improved. Some of the action, like John Wick, is now definitely one of my favourite franchises. The simplicity of it and Keanu Reeves' acting in it, and action acting, if that's the way you would describe it as well, has been outstanding. So I'm really looking forward to that. To see if they bring this into the Matrix. Like I think a lot of people have sort of just really, really, really started to appreciate and enjoy Keanu Reeves as an actor, and I'm one of them. I always thought he was fine. Always thought he was pretty good, but with John Wick and stuff as well, he's been fantastic recently, and I'm interested to see where they go with this Matrix. I'm now talking about Keanu Reeves, but I haven't even looked into the fact that is Keanu Reeves in it. I hope that he is. The other guy as well, he made an appearance in John Wick, the guy that played Morpheus. Don't know the actor's name, but he was in John Wick as well, and they kind of had a little bit of a reunion there, which was pretty cool. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what way the Matrix is going. If they're going to take a new angle on it, maybe go with a new spin, maybe new character, something along those lines. As I said, the third Matrix movie just didn't really round out the franchise as well as it maybe could have been. But sometimes when you're going with these innovative movies, these sort of thought provoking movies and stuff, if you go for too many, or sometimes they're just best left as a one off, that sort of way. And the Matrix, the third part of the Matrix just wasn't fantastic. So I'm interested to see what angle they take in this new one. Can they sort of recapture some of the early stuff? Obviously, technology has moved on quite a bit since the first Matrix movie has was put out, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with it in modern day. The special effects, all that sort of crack too, and it's a sci-fi movie heavy, with based in technology pretty heavily, and if our technology is better, it'll be interesting to see if they sort of modernize just the ships and what the Matrix is, what's involved within the Matrix, what's going on in the sort of dystopian world that has been created, and what's happened since they sort of won at the very end of the Matrix Part 3. So yeah, looking forward and seeing what they do there. Next one is Mission Impossible 7. Like I said, like I said earlier, not the biggest fan of Tom Cruise, but again, somewhat like the Bond movies here. The first couple of Mission Impossibles, when they came out, definitely tuned in, watched them, enjoyed them, and then sort of faded out of the franchise, lost all track of where it was at, what was going on, and them sort of middle 2 or 3, so maybe part 3, part 4, had no real clue of what the hell was going on, and what was happening within the series. But as I said, I dived back in more recently, somewhat like the Bond stuff, and watched the last couple of Mission Impossibles. You don't really have to follow too much to understand what's going on. If you miss a couple of movies, it's fine. But dive back in, watched the last couple of Mission Impossible movies, and thoroughly enjoyed them. And like Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg's been good in them as well. Appreciate that. Do appreciate him. He's been good, like sort of comedic relief in it as well. And like I said, I've really enjoyed the last couple of Mission Impossible movies as well. I think that they've sort of found a second wind with the franchise. Although I think this might have been this movie that Tom Cruise was working on, where he sort of lost the plot of a few staff members or something. So maybe not that great. But look, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I'll tune in. I did like the last couple of Mission Impossibles, and I'll tune in and see what the crack is with this one too. Yeah, last but not least, maybe the one that I'm looking forward to the most on this list. Could be, yeah, maybe it or Dune. I'm looking forward to seeing The Many Saints of Newark. I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast that I sort of have had like a sort of, I really like mob stuff and like early 1900s kind of like America, and learned about it and stuff, and just how wild it was, even up to like the 50s and the 60s, 70s a little bit too. Watched a lot of documentaries recently, Fear City and stuff on Netflix. I've read a few books recently on the mob and everything. Just find it fascinating that this, because I think America was like a young country as well, that they had so many loopholes and ways of getting around things and sort of cheating the law a little bit and making money, and just how wild it was, to be fair. As I said, I've read a lot of books recently, and I've watched a lot of documentaries recently. I've took a real, I've watched The Irishman that was on Netflix as well, watched Goodfellas and stuff recently. I just on a real mob trip, just trying to like learn about it and all that sort of crack. Really enjoying it. But The Many Saints of Newark is essentially a prequel somewhat to The Sopranos. So I actually never watched The Sopranos when it originally came out. I watched it much later on, and yeah, good show. A little bit slow at times now for modern TV, to be fair, but Sopranos is a good show. Isn't it? Gandolfini's the main actor that played Tony. I think his name is Gandolfini. And he's dead now, and I think his son's is gonna act as him in his younger days, because obviously this is a prequel. Yeah, I love mob movies. Like I've watched Donnie Brasco and all recently as well. I think the culture's funny. The sort of Italian culture as well. the bad suits and everything. I am on a mob trip recently, just learned a wee bit about the history of them and stuff. Watched a few documentaries, listened to a few podcasts and all that crack. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Many Saints of Newark. It'll be set a good wee bit earlier, so it'll be sort of in that sort of smoky backroom, dodgy dealings, sort of maybe 70s vibe that the mob had going on in New Jersey or whatever. And I'm looking forward to it. I love them sort of actors. As well. Joey Diaz is going to be in it as well. He's one of my favourite comedians, absolute legend, and he's got a role in it as well. He's going to be perfect as a sort of 70s mobster as well. And I think that it was meant to come out maybe around this time this year, so they pushed it back a good bit as well. And I'm glad that they did. As I said, with a few of these things, I'm sort of glad that they have pushed them back just to make sure that everything's good and that they're not just going to rush it out for rushing it out's sake. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Many Saints of Newark. Good mob movie. As I said, I'm on a wee bit of a mob trip. I watched The Irishman twice recently, and it's a 3-hour long movie. So I'm looking forward to it as well. So that's the kind of movies that I'm looking forward to coming out this year. As I said on the last one, I know that there'll still be tons of like superhero Marvel stuff. I said about that on the TV one that I did last week. I know there's going to be tons of Marvel stuff. It's not that as I said on it, it's not that I don't like it. I probably will tune in and watch a bit of it. It's just not something that sort of I have a lot of investment in. I've watched a lot of the Marvel, watched up to Endgame and all that crack too. All good stuff, all good movies, all enjoyable, but it's just not my thing. I like different stuff and Marvel, but I will tune in and watch a good bit of it. Like I think Spider-Man's got one coming out as well. I'm sure that'll be good. I think they're Doctor Strange as well. I think they're gonna go into this sort of multiverse stuff. I think they're gonna bring in the Flash. I think we talked a little bit about this in the podcast, possibly. Maybe multiple dimensions and stuff like that there too. Alternate universes. Maybe multiple Spider-Mans. Apparently, that Into the Spider-Verse is meant to be fantastic. The cartoon. So multiple Spider-Mans, multiple stuff. I don't know what way they're going to go with it. I'm not the most well versed as far as Marvel or DC or any of them things go. Maybe the Flash is DC. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But it looks like there might be some alternate universes or alternate timelines or realities and stuff. And maybe there'll be multiple of all the characters that everybody loves and stuff like that there. As I said, not really my cup of tea. But I'll tune in and probably watch it too, and I know that there's probably a lot of you that are looking forward to it. And we'll probably cover a good bit of it on the podcast anyway. I'll throw my 2 cents in for what they're worth. But that's it. That's the movies I'm looking forward to coming out this year. As I said at the beginning, hopefully they all do come out. And we're up on Apple Podcasts now. Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean. There's a Google platform we're on as well. So anywhere you listen to your podcasts, we're kind of there. We're doing the wee YouTube videos and stuff too. We put a wee clip of the podcast we did last night up on YouTube as well, me and Big Dev. Hopefully I can now get a laptop after that entire saga and get another laptop now, and I actually have to order it tonight. And then the audio that I'll be putting on YouTube will be better because I'll be using the audio that I record in this mic instead of my phone audio. But hopefully that's all coming soon, and we'll have like wee clips up on YouTube and stuff like that there. And it'll be good crack when the boys all get back in. We have the YouTube going and all the podcast platforms going now, and I think I have the sound down as good as it can get as far as I'm aware anyway. But yeah, keep downloading. If you're watching on YouTube, like it, subscribe, all that crack. I think you can give ratings on maybe Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something along those lines. If you want to give us a good rating, that would help. And we'll keep bombing out the content. We'll be back in full swing pretty shortly. And we need to get talking about plenty of stuff as far as our nerd topics go. But yeah, that'll do me for now, folks. Just a little quick one to sort of, keep our nerd culture fans sort of semi-interested and not just all the fucking sports shit I've been doing, because that's kind of where I'm sort of best at and maybe better than this stuff. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, folks, anyway. That'll do me then. Cheers.